On the following day, we made a trip to the caves and to the observatory at Arecibo, and we had an awful long wait for the tour to start at the caves because one of the trolleys was broke down. Following shots here, this is a trolley that goes on a very steep road that drops about 200 feet to where the entrance of the caves are. I believe that each trolley held about 15 people, and there was 2 trolley cars being pulled by a big tractor, and the road was so steep that it actually passed underneath itself on some of the spirals down to where the cave started. Then once at the caves, it's all a walking tour, but on a very, very nice walkway with guardrails. And once you enter into the cave system, off in the distance, it opens up into a giant sinkhole where there's a little waterfall, which is said to be one of the fountains of youth, or Ponce de Leon. But I don't believe that he ever came to this cave, because the cave was only discovered in 1958, and of course Ponce de Leon died centuries before that, so realistically he'd probably never been to this cave. And it's amazing that it wasn't discovered until 1958, but I imagine the Indians that inhabited the island before the Spanish, they probably knew where it was. And these pictures aren't very good because I did not bring a tripod, and the shutter speeds were more than a second, which in some of the photos there's light streaks from the people that were holding little flashlights. So I wasn't able to get a very good picture inside the cave. From the caves, it's not a very long drive, just a relatively short drive to the observatory. In the observatory, where you park to where you go up to the observatory is a rather steep climb, so you can either take a van, or Nancy and I walked the steep road up to the observatory, and then they have a little short movie, and then they also, you are able to buy food and take a view of the giant dish. This is the largest radio dish in the world, I believe. It's called a radar and radio dish. So that'll be coming up right after the cave. Out of the cave, we saw a few cave crickets. That's coming up in the shot right here, cave crickets. And this next photo is one of the big formations from, I never remember, stalagmite. Anyhow, we're coming up on the observatory, which there was a movie called Contact that Jodie Foster was in that was filmed here, and one of the James Bond films was also featured this telescope. So it was very interesting to see the telescope, and the guard that was working at the bottom of the parking lot was probably one of the most considerate people that we met. He was very concerned that Al should take the bus up and not make the walk, and he was also concerned about the dogs that were in the car, and he had a secret spot where there was a faucet on the side of the cliff where he filled the water container for the dogs that had been in the car, but actually we did have water along for the dogs. That evening we made a trip, just a walking a few doors over by the surfer beach, and coming up as a poster from the big surfing contest, which occurred on, it was ending the day we got there, but the sign was left over, so actually the surfing contest is over. And then a few doors from that is Gloria's Kiosk, where we had a couple of evening meals. It's just a little roadside place where you actually sit out in some lawn chairs right on the sidewalk and sample some of the Puerto Rican food. And here's a picture of Gloria. Gloria lived in New York for quite a while and then moved back to Puerto Rico to raise her children. After that, we made, this is the next day, we made a walking trip to downtown Dorado, and there's some colorful paintings on one of the apartment buildings, and this is the city square, and the mayor's office is right across from the square, so that's the square right there, and here's a picture of the mayor's office, which is right across from that, and then there's a statue that was in the square. This is a trash receptacle. It's kind of interesting looking. That evening we went back to Gloria's to sample some more of the Puerto Rican food. And of course on the way, here's another shot of the street alongside the Surfers Beach. And we all walked over. And in the next shot we have a picture of Gloria's husband, Frank. And a couple pictures of the whole group here in front of Gloria's restaurant. It's called the Kiosk. And Gloria was one of the sponsors for the surfing contest. And the next shot we have the two Puerto Rican dogs. The one in the foreground is Bambi and then Jackie, which they had some time. This is Bambi here. And coming up we have a picture of their cat that was usually sitting out on the front porch. We made a trip back to old San Juan, and this is a tall ship that was docked there. It was the Amsterdam. And on this trip, we made a walking trip to the old fort. So we took the ferry boat again, and then we walked the streets. And here we're on the opposite side of the bay, and off to the side of the fort is one of the poorer districts, which you're seeing down below. And that was one of the areas that the Tourist Bureau suggested that tourists not go down there at night anyhow, that it was not a safe area. And we're looking across the broad green expanse to the fort that was part of their defense system. And there was just a multitude of people flying kites, which are barely visible in one of these pictures. And here we're entering the old fort, which is a national monument, so you can use your Golden Eagle Pass to get in. And it had some very steep ramps, and it had many passageways, and it had walls, which you see in some of these photos. These walls were 20 or 30 feet thick. I'm not really sure how thick they are, but here we're standing up on the wall and looking off at the shoreline. And the next few photos, you'll see some of this. Well, this is the wall again, and then there's the spots where the cannons were mounted. You can see the circular tracks that they'd swing around at. And then Nancy standing by one of the positions where soldiers could fire from, and you can see how thick those walls are. So this is the uppermost level, and then there were some very narrow, steep stairs down to the next level, which at a later slide.